Hey, Mark. Thanks for coming on in. It's a pleasure to have you here in the Skoll Marketing Studios. Today, we just want to take a look at your life and career in football and how you got to this point. So first, I want to ask Mark, where are you from?
I was born in Denver, Colorado.
The Wild West.
Yeah.
How was it growing up there?
Well, when I grew up, it wasn't as large as it is now. It turned into kind of the mini LA. But my dad had grown up in Chicago and was looking for, a better place to live. He kind of grew up in an apartment complex, and Chicago is pretty.
It's pretty dense.
Yeah. So when he moved to Colorado, it was underdeveloped, and he was in real estate and just really loved the area. Loved the mountains, the lakes, and he loved the fish.
So when you were growing up, I mean, was it always your dream to be an athlete? Did you have other aspirations?
This is kind of weird, but I always wanted to be a football player, and I think it was because I wanted to impress my dad.
Okay.
Because, at the time, he just watched sports constantly, but there was a reason why, but I won't go into that. It's kind of long. But and so he just wouldn't let me play the game either because he played football. And, he had scholarships, and he kind of floated around a little bit, went to Purdue and Marquette and played, but they played without a face mask.
Okay.
And they had leather helmets.
Yeah, a little different.
So it was a different game back then. So my dad, kind of had a mangled nose, but he told me to play other sports, and he wouldn't let me play football. And I had a 6'10" brother who was older than me and was a great basketball player, and he made me play basketball. And so I went out for basketball, and it just, and as I played basketball, I played guard, forward, center, and I learned to jump, and so my dad would always say he would take like great athletes play basketball. Like, how would you like to have Michael Jordan as a wide receiver?
Yeah.
Or see some of those guys line up at positions that, like Shaq O'Neal, I wouldn't want to see him at nose tackle, would you?
Probably not, no. Or like lining up as a defensive back against LeBron James or something like that.
Yeah, those guys are amazing, you know. And so my dad said, play basketball. And, any dum-dum could play football. But back then, it wasn't complicated. There wasn't a big passing. The ball was big, it was a run game. And he just thought it was not healthy to play at the time, and wouldn't let me play till my senior year in high school.
Okay. So you eventually got there. You played your senior year. Did it come kind of natural to you? I mean, you're a bigger guy. You obviously were playing sports. Did football kind of come natural, or?
It was, if you have the desire to do it, not everybody enjoys the hitting aspect of it. And when I came in the game, the rules were a lot different than they are, today. And so I think my dad was just trying to protect me. And so I couldn't wait to go out and do it, So he developed a thirst for it.
Yeah.
And I played basketball, and I had other buddies that I said, let's go out for football. And they said no, they played basketball. And they didn't want to play. And my older brother kind of led the way for me. My dad wouldn't let him play till his senior year. And he played and had several scholarships, and more in basketball, but in football. And he had just a really great game, this one game, and I went up to him and told him, Ed, man, that's the best game you ever played. And it was kind of like a championship game, so it was his last game. And he said, you just saw the last game you'll ever see me play.
You knew right then and there.
Yeah, and so he didn't like that part of the game, but, he was a big target too.
Yeah, 6'10", right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what you said? Yeah, that is a pretty big target. So I want to ask, I mean, you go out for football your senior year, and then you end up at Colorado State the next year, and
Yes.
you play two ways.
I actually went there on a basketball, football scholarship,
Okay.
but it's kind of a long story, but it, it, it well, it was kind of a different game. It had, was with a different coach. I don't want to mention his name, but it was really physical, and he tried to run off players. And my dad had a really dominant personality, and so he was trying to run me off. And so he put me in different positions to fail, but saw that I could play multiple positions. And that's kind of like where it all started for me.
Yeah. So there was some experimentation with different positions that you'd play.
Yeah.
And then where did you end up finding the most comfort, and where did you kind of succeed?
Well, my favorite position was tight end.
Okay.
And I always thought that was the position that I was the best at, but never got to play. And it was just a different era. Somebody get hurt, they'd go, "Oh, put Mullaney in there."
Yeah.
So
You're a team player.
so stats really, to me. I mean, I know they're important today, but back then, to me, they're it's kind of for losers. I mean, I didn't get to like run off for passes and catch pass, or run the ball or play a position or that all the offensive tackles hurt put him there. I got drafted to play defensive end on one of the best defenses in football. I never played there before. I was a tight end, and a linebacker. So, I didn't even know where Minnesota was, to be honest with you, and or who the Purple People leaders were.
Yeah. Well, you learned, of course. So, okay, you're in college. What was the moment in college as you're kind of moving around different positions and really learning the game? When did you realize that you're going to make a career out of this?
My dad would always ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I told him I wanted to be a football player. And he goes, "You ain't going to be a football player. Pick something else. You have to pick a profession. That's not a profession." But that was a long time ago where, they're not making the money they are today and they got all the talent they have today. But so I told him, I said, "Well, I guess I want to be a clown." And he goes, he couldn't believe I said it. But then one day, when I finally made it to the pros and everything, he said, "Well, you succeeded in both your goals. You're a clown, and you made it to the NFL."
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So can you walk me through kind of the process of getting drafted and coming to Minnesota? You found it on a map, of course.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it was during the Vietnam War when I got drafted. And the nice thing about it is they ended it before, I got drafted in the NFL. But, I had a really low number. And, I figured I was getting drafted to go to Vietnam. And so, they didn't have the televised versions of, here's the first round draft choice and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, I'm going to Vietnam. And so my brother runs me down on campus, and he knows I'm going to be at the student center having coffee and a donut, And he comes, finds me, and says, "Hey, Mark, did you hear the news?" And I go, "What news?" He goes, "You just got drafted." And I go, "Oh, gosh, I'm going to Vietnam?" He goes, "No, you idiot. You were a number one draft choice to go. You're going to Minnesota." And I go, "Is that good?" And he goes, "Good. No, that's great." He goes, "You're going to be a Purple People leader." I go, "What's a Purple People leader?" So I wasn't really a big fan of watching the game. I just wanted to play the game, and I enjoyed playing it. So, and it didn't matter where they put me. I just wanted to be on the field.
Yeah. Well, that's a great story. I mean, there was 2 drafts coming up, and you got selected for probably the right one, probably the one that worked out for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you get to Minnesota, you leave your roots out in Fort Collins at Colorado State. Who were some of the first teammates and notable teammates and coaches that kind of made an impact on shaping you in the NFL?
I would say, well, Jack Patera was my rookie year, and I think the one that, but he left, and then I got Buddy Ryan, and I think Buddy Ryan was the coach that kind of gave me good direction on where to play and how to play the game, and so I was lining up and to play defensive end, and like I said, didn't play there before.
Yeah, it was new.
And he thought I was built more like Carl Eller than like Jim Marshall. Okay. And back then, they ran to the right a lot, so they had tight end strong, left mainly for us on defense. But he told me to watch that guy right there and play like him, because that's where you're going to play. And I don't know if you ever saw Carl Eller back in his prime.
Oh, we've seen some highlights. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. But you didn't see him in the locker room when he's getting ready to get in the shower either.
I did not.
He didn't have an ounce of fat on him.
Yeah.
He was ripped. And I said, how about that short, fat guy over there, that white guy, Doug Sutherland. And I love Doug. He's a great player and everything. But I just thought I had a better chance of beating that guy out than Eller, Page, or Marshall.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I ended up over there, was because of Buddy Ryan. And then when somebody got hurt or had to play the run, or because, like there was a time when Allen, was like 280, Allen Page, and, very dominant player, first player to ever be the most valuable player in football and playing defensive line. And I'm playing next to him, and I learned a lot from just watching these guys. But I remember playing next to Alan Page, and he would be so quick off the ball that the ref would call offsides, and I was playing right next to him, looking. My key is to come off the ball, so you want to see the ball. It's the first thing to move, And he was in the backfield, and they'd call him offsides. And he would start, screaming at the ref, I'm not, offsides. And I said, geez, Alan, you were offsides. I'm playing right next to you. But then you go back and you watch the sideline view of the game. There was two things moving on the field. It was the ball and Alan Page, and he was not offsides. That's how quick he was.
Kind of reminds me of T.J. Watt. You see T.J. Watt get a lot of those calls today on the Steelers.
Yeah.
So you played in the Super Bowl. What was that like?
Super Bowl 11, yep. It was probably that year, one of the best teams I played on. But the Hail Mary pass, I think, was the absolute best team. That I got to play on. So, that was a great, accomplishment, memory, but it wasn't, the world championship ring, So, afterward, playing for the Vikings, it seemed to come easy. They made it look easy. Bud Grant made it look easy. He didn't complicate a lot of things. He wasn't a man of many words. If he looked at you, you knew what he was talking about. And I just remember playing in Super Bowl 11, and after the game, I gave the ring to my dad. And he wore it all the time, and then he passed away, and my mom put it in my stocking and said his most cherished possession other than his wedding ring. And so he wore it for 25 years. So I wear it in remembrance of him more than the game.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Especially, given the story of your dad saying, what, you're going to not be a football player? You said you're going to be a clown?
No. He said, you better hope you make it in football, because I was too stupid to do anything else.
Sure.
And then I that's when I asked him when he was asking me when I want to be, a football player and a clown.
Well, hey, you got the proof right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, hey, it wouldn't be an interview with Mark Mullaney without talking about the visor. So when you look back at it, I mean, visors are very common in the NFL now, and it's kind of wild to think that you were the first to wear one. So can you tell the story of what led you to try it out initially? And in that moment, did you realize you were going to be a trendsetter and that in 2024, half the league would be wearing a visor?
I'd be a billionaire today if I knew that. But no, I was, Eric Dickerson. I think he was the first one kind of to wear goggles to play, and so I tried the goggle thing because I really had a bad injury to my eye. But as a defensive lineman, it'd come down and break my nose, and I had. The only real surgery I've had was on my nose, so I can breathe out my nostril, but it's kind of mangled. But so the helmet with the glasses on would come down and break my nose, and I'm pleading with a bloody nose, and then I got a big mark on my.
Probably looked pretty tough.
Yeah, and so then I was just driving one day, and I saw a motorcycle blow by me with a shield on, and it kind of was like new for them even back then. And I just asked Dennis Ryan, I said, hey Dennis, why can't we can you put a piece of plexiglass or something on there? And he kind of went out and found the material to do it, and put a clear one on it first, and it made a ton of difference for me visually and everything. And then we'd play, and it was sunny out, like in that Raiders game, and I'd get these massive headaches. And so it was, I forget if it was the doctor, Burns, or the eye doctor, whoever I was going to at the time, told me to tint it. And when I tinted it, everybody noticed it. Mm-hmm. And when they noticed it, a lot of offensive linemen found it intimidating because they couldn't see my eyes and, all that stuff.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So you noticed that people thought it was intimidating. Did you get any brushback? Did anyone kind of call you out and say, oh, here's the visor guy, watch out? What was sort of the reaction amongst other players?
I don't know what they thought what to expect, but kind of like if you can't see your face or your eyes and you see this, Carl Eller, I'm using an example, he wore a visor. Mm-hmm. I think he'd be really intimidated.
I agree. Yeah. So did you feel like an extra level of confidence when you wore that visor? Obviously you felt better and your eyes were protected, but kind of having that sort of shield, and especially once it got tinted, did you feel kind of an edge? Did you feel a little swagger from that?
I don't. You don't feel a swagger necessarily. You just want to know that you can play at the best of your ability, and you're trying to put yourself in that spot to do that. And with the visor, it just made it easier for me to play the best I could play. And it's just like wearing pads or stuff on your arms.
Yeah. It's all part of the evolution of the game.
Yeah, it's not because you want to. I mean, like I'm looking at that picture of Carl Eller behind you, and he has the thing on his thumb. He's playing with a broken thumb. That's why he's got that on his arm. And so when they put that around there, I mean, that looks pretty intimidating too, and you don't want that coming upside your head.
No, you do not, especially coming from that guy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that kind of concludes all the main questions that we wanted to ask. Mark, thank you so much for coming in. It's been a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better and hear a little bit about your story. And we're grateful for the time we spent with you today.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
You got it.